Out Chats. Do you know what time it is?
F-U-L-L-O-U-P. We got control, we got the right, we got the vision, you lose the sight. We will never stop. What? We got the drop, yeah.
What time is it? Full out. We're live in 5, 6, 7, 8. Good evening and welcome to our next edition of Full Out Chats Coaches Corner. I'm your host, Steve Solberg, and super excited to bring in these awesome ladies who have taken their time out of their busy weeks to come in and talk to you about the world of college dance. These ladies I've known for years. It just so happened they're all in the Big Ten. That is where I am from. I cheered in the Big Ten. I coached in the Big Ten. And so these ladies representing Big Ten dance, from all prestigious programs, unbelievable game day, unbelievable at nationals. I mean, but also just talking about currently what is going on in the world of college dance. You know, how were tryouts this year? What are we doing to engage our athletes, you know, during this time before we're all able to come back to campus? And really, what is kind of the latest from each of us in terms of, you know, when are we able to return? What are the game plans? And then talking about nationals. You know, it is a concern about UCA, UDA nationals in January, and these coaches were part of an awesome coaches group that kind of just, you know, put a really well-written letter in terms of just addressing some things that as college coaches we're thinking about that we hope to educate everybody on about what we're trying to do right now and get our season back to normal as possible. So let's get right into it. Again, very excited to have these ladies. Thank you so much again for joining here tonight. First, from University of Michigan, we have Valerie. Val, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Val always is without a doubt one of the best speakers I've ever had through Varsity U. She speaks at the cheer camp every year. I just want to say, like, you are one of the best speakers I've ever seen. Val, you're so good. So thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy what I do. I just love working with coaches and helping coaches to achieve the best possible programs that we can.
Next, from Iowa, we have Jenny. Jenny, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing great.
So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being here also. And from the Ohio State University, we have Melissa. Melissa, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you all again for being here. And from the University of Minnesota, I had an awesome full out chat with her a couple months ago. She was my first dance interview, which was great. She is having spotty internet issues. So if we lose Amanda every once in a while, don't worry, we'll get her back. We promise we'll get her back. But Amanda Gaines from University of Minnesota. Amanda, how are you?
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
Doing great. And again, ladies, I want to thank you, first of all, again, for being here tonight and, you know, giving your time to talk about the college dance world. I know that there's a lot of unknowns right now, but, you know, talking about college dance, you know, it's obviously grown so big in the spirit community in terms of, you know, involving the dance side of things into game day. Obviously, UDA Nationals has absolutely blown up. It's gotten so competitive and so great. There's so much talent there. But also just general mainstream. You know, I mean, you're seeing so many dancers out there. You're seeing so many people doing dance, and it's just blown up everywhere, which has been awesome. So first, I'm going to start with Val. Val at University of Michigan. First, you know, please feel free to obviously give us a couple minutes about your background and kind of how you got to Michigan, and then also kind of the current state at the University of Michigan, and kind of what are you doing right now with your team until we're all able to get back to campus.
Sure. Well, back in the day, long time ago, I was on the team at the University of Michigan. And as soon as I graduated, I started coaching a high school team. And after that, I kept going back to coach the team and kind of help them out. So I'm actually entering my 20th season at the University of Michigan, and whatever that season is going to look like, we're really excited to move forward with that. And then I also own a dance studio. So I kind of see, and I've owned my dance studio for 16 years. So I really see kind of all sides of the spectrum in terms of the dance world. And I think it just helps me become a better coach and continuing to learn and grow.
Now, you know, as we talk about, you know, Big Ten dance here, we're talking about obviously some of the most prestigious programs in the country. Obviously, one of the biggest programs in our conference and in the country is Ohio State. So, you know, Melissa, again, please, you know, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, how did you get into coaching at the collegiate level, and then just kind of, you know, a current status update about Ohio State and, you know, kind of what you've been doing to keep your kids engaged during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going into my 10th season. So actually went to Ohio State, got a degree in business, started working in the corporate world, and at the same time ended up coaching the team the year after I graduated. So kind of did both things for about, 8 years. And then this past year actually moved over into a hybrid role within the university, part focusing on student athlete development and then continuing to coach the team. So it's been a cool transition to see a little bit more on the inside of the athletic department at Ohio State. And as with all of us, we are navigating COVID. We've really taken advantage of the virtual space, and we'll continue to do so until we're back on campus. So we're looking forward to it. At the end of this month, we should all be back together again.
Next, I'm going to go to Amanda. Amanda, I mean, again, we had an awesome interview about a month ago. So if you missed it, feel free to check out the YouTube channel here and hear Amanda's story. It's really cool. It's really great. She shared some awesome pictures that we were able to show from back in the day when she was a dancer as a child. It was
Be
great.
clear, Steve found those on his own.
I did actually. I think
he did a little.
She gave me
searching on
permission.
his own.
She gave me permission to Facebook stalk, so that's fine.
It's true.
No big deal.
It's true.
But Amanda, how has it been at University of Minnesota? How was kind of, trying to run tryouts and everything with the way it is? And then again, kind of just anything that you've been able to do to engage your kids during the time away from campus.
Yeah, so I'm in a really interesting position. I'm actually coming off of 3 years away from coaching. I thought I was retiring, but clearly that didn't happen. So I was announced probably in early March. And then, just a few weeks after that is when quarantine happened. So I've been fortunate to still have a relationship with a lot of my returning members, but having done tryouts virtually, I haven't really gotten to connect with some of my rookies in person yet, which is really kind of crazy. So we've been doing a lot of, thank goodness for Zoom and all of the technology that's available to us right now, because we've really been leveraging that to try and stay connected, keep the athletes up to date on, everything that's going on, and, at least letting them know that we don't know and that we're working on things. But like Melissa said, we're really excited to hopefully be back together near the end of this month and really just kick things off and start what will definitely be an unconventional season, but hopefully one that is still feels really exciting and fulfilling for our athletes.
And finally, let's go to Jenny at Iowa. Again, obviously such a different year, having to try to do some sort of a tryout, trying to keep our kids engaged virtually. But I was doing the math, we're not allowed to report back till August 23rd. So literally the day before classes start. And our last practice as a team at Purdue was February 23rd. So literally 5 months that I have not seen my team as a whole, which is unbelievable to me. So Jenny, same thing, first of all, obviously give us a quick about your background. How did you end up at the University of Iowa? And then, how has it been, dealing with trying to be a dance coach right now with everything going on with COVID?
For sure. Well, I think I just put this together. I'm the only one of us that I didn't dance at Iowa. Everyone else danced at the team that they coached. But funny story, I actually danced in college at the University of Minnesota. Amanda and I are conveniently like a full cycle 4 years apart.
It's true.
So
I have followed Jenny's career path like my entire life.
With my younger brother.
Yeah.
So high school, we went to the same high school, same dance studio, and same college. And I coached her freshman year.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that was a long time ago. I mean, we're so young. We're still so young. But so I danced at Minnesota and then coached at Minnesota for a year when I was in grad school, and I went the education route. So I actually am also a teacher and met my husband, who was a wrestler at the University of Iowa. And that's how I ended up the Hawkeye way, down the Hawkeye way. And this will be my 12th year coaching at the University of Iowa. So it's pretty exciting in terms of, COVID, it's hard because I think we all want to be working as much as we can with our athletes, but also understanding that, they're all dealing with so many different things, right? We have our incoming freshmen who are still trying to process the loss of their senior year. And we have our now seniors that are leading our teams who are wondering, like, will the team and will this experience be what I want it to be? And so I think that's really been one of my focuses, is talking a lot with my senior leaders and just making sure, like, I know that this season isn't going to be what it's always been, but what can we make it? And so we've been, like everyone else, leveraging the technology, once weekly Zoom check-ins. Sometimes we dance and sometimes we just talk. One of the things that we elected to do this summer was a book study, which we have not done in the summer in the past. And it's been kind of nice just weekly being able to talk about a chapter in a book, and, we're all having that shared experience, and hopefully that will make up a little bit for the lack of time we've had physically together over the summer. But much like everyone else, school starts here in Iowa on August 24th, and that's when we'll be able to be together as a team again.
I feel you, Jenny. I am one of the few cheer coaches in the Big Ten that did not cheer at where I coach. So I feel your pain. I'm one of the few. But like you, I am a Big Ten alum. I'm just not coaching my alma mater. Well, thank you all again for being here. I was really looking forward to this. I so well respected in the industry. And I know just, as coaches, we're just ultimately just trying to salvage any type of a positive season that we can provide. Big news today from the Big Ten. They did finally release football schedules. So deleted my whole calendar and redid it, because literally my football schedule changed. As we were joking before, we added 2 teams, and we added Michigan and Ohio State. Why not add, 2 of the hard-up teams? Why not? And so we're going to have that. But obviously in any way, shape, or form that we can be used for games this year, we'll do. I know that's been one of the hot topics from everybody. It's just like, what can we do to be anything, whether on the field or just in the stadium? Like, what can we do? And I just think some great, good ideas could be shared here. I'll start with Amanda at Minnesota. Amanda, I mean, what have you guys discussed as a program or as a staff or as a department in terms of like how, dance could be implemented at football under the different situations that could pop up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we're still definitely trying to understand space restrictions and maybe where in the stadium we could or couldn't be. We have talked a lot about, is there stuff that we can film beforehand that can be played in the stadium or in tailgate lots or on television screens outside of the stadium? Obviously, we know that our interaction with the fans will have to be, minimal or limited, or definitely feel very different than it has in the past. So trying to take advantage of just our ability to, pre-record things or do things in smaller groups in, areas around the stadium, just so we can try and create as much of a game day atmosphere as we can, no matter what the fans look like. I think that's something we're all still kind of antsy to understand too, is like, what does the fan situation look like? So we can really understand how we best can be utilized in those situations.
Anybody else want to chime in? I know that there's been other schools that have discussed about doing pre-recordings. Anybody else been discussing that, or have any other things that they have discussed in terms of how they could possibly be used for football?
Yes, we talked about that too, is doing special videos for donors, or, even working with our development department on those kinds of things. But one of the things that I told my team the other day is that, when I was growing up, like, I loved the practices more than I did the performances. Like, I don't know why, but I just really enjoyed the interaction that I had with my team. And so I said to them, hey, let's really focus on the day-to-day interactions that we have, practices. Like, I mean, if I would have known back last March, like that was going to be our last practice, like I would have savored every moment with them. So we're just going to kind of redirect what our goals and our focuses are. Yes, still being engaged with our universities. Yes, still interacting in the ways that we can, and still creating spirit, but figuring out ways of doing it differently, making a film, making a video, doing different things, and reaching out to donors. So we're going to continue to be creative as possible. And I know the student athletes have a lot of great ideas on that as well. So I'm reaching out to them for their ideas too.
Jenny or Melissa, anything else to add? Anything that from Iowa or Ohio State, in terms of anything different, or any, best practices or ideas that maybe people haven't thought about in terms of how to be used at a game for this upcoming season?
Yeah, we're currently, I have a great relationship with the director of the Hawkeye Marching Band. And so he and I have been collaborating pretty closely in terms of like, okay, if it looks like this, then we can do this kind of a thing. So we're just exploring options similar to what Amanda was talking about, but also incorporating the dance team, the cheerleaders with the marching band, because the marching band is also going to be limited in some capacity as well. So I think as we've all mentioned, we really want to make sure our kids, our athletes have a great experience regardless of the setting that it's in. And part of our normal is working with our marching band. And so we're going to continue to do that. They're going to continue to put together shows for each home game, and we're going to collaborate with them to continue to perform, if that's virtually, if that's pre-recorded, if that's outside of the stadium somewhere, so that we can still provide that experience, not only for our athletes, but also for the fans.
Melissa, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all talk a lot, so we've shared a lot of the similar ideas. I think what I've been trying to think about is our role at football is primarily promoting school spirit and providing entertainment. And those two things look really different in a COVID era. So really, I think what our jobs are right now is to redefine how do we provide entertainment and promote school spirit in this space. And having virtual options, understanding that we are a marketing asset as well and want to provide that entertainment from the television broadcast side. And I think figuring out how we can plug in once we understand and kind of limit down some of the variables on, crowd size and sidelines or stands or whatever that looks like. I think those are going to be the two kind of like lenses that we look through to figure out how we can plug ourselves into promoting school spirit and entertaining.
That was well said. I mean, some great ideas. I mean, the stuff with the donors, I think, is absolutely, huge. I mean, that's, we've always said we're under marketing here at Purdue, and we've always said, the thing about the Spirit Squad, cheer, dance is, we are able to be used in ways that are other players can't, just because of NCAA violations and rules and stuff. And so, and that is so huge. And especially right now, as we know, money is tight everywhere. And we're just trying to figure that out also in regards to, budgets and how we're going to go forward with a season. And obviously how many fans we have in our stadium will have a huge, will dictate a lot of that in terms of how we're going to be used. One aspect obviously is, you have these awesome traditions, these awesome game days at all these schools. The Big Ten is, that's why I brag about the Big Ten. I'll always brag about the Big Ten. I had a SEC coaches show a couple of weeks ago, and I still bragged about the Big Ten. I didn't care. And so, but obviously one thing is, competition. UDA Nationals down in Orlando is traditionally mid-January. I know that a lot of dance coaches came together and wrote up a really well put together, just, with bullet points of just, concerns about having it in January or even trying to make it work this year. And so, anybody can just chime in right away, just in terms of like, when thinking about nationals, first of all, before we get in the fun stuff, we'll talk about the fun stuff, about the divisions and the success all your programs have had, but kind of talking about within the realm of what we are this year. What are some of the concerns in terms of trying to make nationals work this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think, all of us, really we kind of reached outside of the Big Ten as well. And just really for our student athletes want to make sure that as coaches, we're doing our job, which is to maximize our student athletes experience. And a large part of that for all of our programs is nationals. So I think when we started to just kind of critically think about timing and where we are right now, how much is changing, and really thought about through the lens of administration, that January date is really challenging for a lot of us. And I felt like we kind of had some agreement and wanted to understand, beyond the Big Ten, there seemed to be some similar trend lines of like, yeah, that makes us really nervous. And I think our job is to advocate for our student athletes at the end of the day. That is our job. And so that's kind of where we started. And then really just wanted to open a discussion and try to, as best as we can, pool information, which is always the hardest part, is understanding in every different, geographical location and school administration, what are the commonalities, and really start from there and provide that information to see if there was some solutions really to making sure we can provide that experience for our student athletes.
Val, in regards to trying to make nationals work this year, again, there's a lot of great bullet points, but any of the bullet points specifically for you that maybe had, for you being at Michigan, whether it be geographically, budgetarily, or just your team, any of those concerns that you have more than others?
Well, I believe obviously that UCA and UDA wants to make it happen. We all want to be there. I think that's a common theme. We all want to do that. But how can we get our student athletes there safely? If we told our administration today that we're going to get on a plane and go to Orlando with a team, we know the answer is going to be no, because that is not a safe measure for our student athletes right now. So we need to think about long term, what is going to be the most successful to be able to get there, and if that means postponing it to a little bit later, those kinds of things. Obviously, budgets are a concern right now for all of our programs, and so we've just got to figure out how to navigate that together and kind of come to a common solution. And one of the things that I said to our fellow coaches was like, it's kind of like a chicken and egg kind of scenario, because you're like, hey, I'm going to come. Oh no, I'm not going to come. Yes, we're going to have it. No, we're not going to have it. And they can't. So I think there's a lot of this kind of stuff that happens. And so we've got to kind of, and we can't just, buy a plane ticket in January. We've got to be able to plan ahead of time and make these decisions as, early as September. And usually by this time of year, I have all of that travel arrangements made. And so for me to make a travel arrangement for something in January, given the current state of COVID, I don't see that being feasible for us right now.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, again, for you, being in Minnesota, within your administration, within the structure of how you guys are. First of all, you guys have 45 million people in your Spirit Squad. Right. So,
yes, we have a large Spirit Squad. That is true. Yes. I think our coaching staff alone could field a team at nationals. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, we could.
Smo-Ed, we're coming for you. Coaching staff. Pro-Am. Here we go.
The jabs that we give to Sam Owens on that stuff is just nonstop. It has to, though.
And Sam has to be the front of the pyramid.
Yes.
He needs to be the front.
He's going to be up there with the palms and the signs. Absolutely. Yeah. He's been waiting for this moment. Yeah.
But again, from that letter, kind of just, what is your main concern in terms of like trying to make nationals happen this year for your program?
I think, like Val said, safety is absolutely our number one concern. And I think even as we look at being able to start with our athletes this summer or this fall, it's all about safety and how can we, as much as they're collegiate athletes and they are adults, like we're still responsible to their parents as well to make sure that we are being thoughtful and planful and taking care of them in a way that's setting them up for success. So in addition to just, the safety at the actual competition, knowing that we've had to take a lot of time off and haven't been able to have this sort of like off season and prep through the summer that we typically have, the thought of, kind of having to turn on for national season a lot earlier is a little concerning too, just knowing from like an injury standpoint, from a cardiovascular standpoint, making sure that we can truly prep them to be at their best for the national competition, and just being so limited in what we've been able to do this summer in terms of prep work could definitely have been, that could make that difficult. So I think it's really just about thinking about their health and safety in the long term, both with COVID and just long term keeping their bodies and their minds healthy.
Without a doubt, safety is just number one. Hopefully we have some sort of grasp of what is happening here in the next few months. Jenny, anything else you have to add in regard from Iowa in terms of just talking about, because you're also in a situation where both, your dance and your cheer team traditionally compete. And also if they get a bid, your mascot. So, you're also traveling. Usually you're not thinking like just 30, 40. You're thinking a large amount of people here. So anything else that you could think of from Iowa?
Yeah, I would echo the health and safety is huge. We had our Nationals jazz choreographer scheduled to come August 14th. Obviously, that's not happening, right? Talk about erasing the calendar. Dance team coaches and cheer coaches, we plan for the whole year, and we're just going to go ahead and not do that anymore. But also, besides that, I think the budget is huge, because I know programs kind of fall into two camps. One camp is nationals is built into your budget and you're not allowed to fundraise. And then the other camp is nationals is not built into your budget, but you can do all the fundraising you want. And we're in that second camp where nationals isn't a part of our operating budget. However, we're fortunate enough to be able to fundraise throughout the season in order for us to go to nationals. So I think part of it also is just allowing time, because fundraising right now seems maybe not the top priority, asking people for money when, maybe people do not have money to give. And so allowing, pushing back nationals would also allow us more time to figure out, is there money in the budget that we can tap into, or are there fundraisers that we can get creative and do? Because some of our fundraisers are not going to be allowed this season because of COVID restrictions. And so I think that's another, huge thing is as a Big Ten dance team, I don't want to ask my athletes to pay their own way to nationals, right? Like that's something that we're going to do together as a program to get them there. And so I think that's something that weighs heavily on me as like my mom brain too, like, we're not going to pay this much money for it not to happen kind of a thing. So I think, we just have to keep that in mind as well.
I think the biggest challenge for me has been just knowing I have to think differently this year. I mean, I have to just not be comfortable with some things. And Jenny said it best. I'm the same way. I love to have literally my whole first semester calendar to the kids like July 1st. Like, I mean, they have it all. Like practices where they should know literally from July 1st till December 31st, where they have to be and when they have to be there. I mean, like that's what I try to do. And to literally tell them, I think we have practice on August 23rd, but I have no idea, it's just, it makes me so.
The anxiety levels are through the roof with my lack of calendar planning right now. Yes.
That is
the
not
ultimate.
how it goes.
It's the ultimate game day situation. Ultimate.
There you go.
Yes. And so I completely feel you on all those aspects. And I know, I know for a fact, UCA, UDA is trying to do everything they can to try to give it a chance. But I will throw this question to you that I threw to some cheer coaches a couple weeks ago. Would you consider NDA? Would you do NDA for a year if that was your only option to have to compete this year? You can think about it. Overwhelmingly for cheerleading, everybody said yes, they would do NCAA for a year if they had to. I mean, if that was your only option to compete this year.
For us, the score sheet is very different.
Yes.
And all of our preparations and things that we do lead up to that. And I don't see that would be, that's something I think it would have to be like a multiple year plan for me. Like I couldn't just say, okay, this year we're just going to switch. It'd have to be something that I would have to plan for years. And I don't think I can just do that in 1 year.
Yeah, that's a doozy of a question. Because obviously, there's pros and cons to every circuit, UDA, NDA, USA. I think I echo Val's sentiment on the score sheet. And I think also for dance, the thing that's a little tricky in terms of just a personal preference is the actual event area. So I think what's a cool thing about NDA, NCAA is Evangel and the, being outside. For dance, it's very hard with the Marley, which is more of a vinyl, and the heat, it gets a little complicated because we turn. Whereas, with cheer, you can roll the cheer mat. So it's a little different in the dance world, at least from my perspective. Now they've made some adjustments as of late, NDA has. So
Amanda has competed at both, so she knows.
I was gonna say, I don't want to say never say never, but similar to Val, it feels like that is something I would need to prep for. I personally have never had the chance to go down to watch NDA. So if I were to bring my team down there, my planner self and wanting to set my kids up for success, it feels like I need to go just watch the event first before I'm let's head in there. So it would be a pretty big shift in mindset, but I don't want to say never, but
I mean,
but maybe not.
Also,
Yeah, but probably not. Yeah.
But it's also choreography, right? Because we all have relationships pretty established with the people we use for choreography. And we hire them and work with them because they know the UDA score sheet and the UDA venue and the UDA judges. And so to then say like either, oh, we don't want to work with you because we're going to NDA, or like, oh, by the way, can you change your complete style and match NDA? You know, that's also another added challenge on top of it. So,
and also a lot of them already work with existing NDA teams as well,
right.
too. So that's a really tough, like,
Mhm.
conflict of interest for choreographers. Like you feel bad putting them in those situations as well.
I knew, yeah, I mean, we talked about that. I mean, because same in cheer, like the routine is so different. The score sheets are, I mean, I get all that. The question I was proposing, when I had the coaches out for cheer was just, if it was the only chance to give a nationals experience, what do you do? And I guess, we kind of just said we would do it and just try our best and hope, let's see what happens kind of thing. But, Jenny said, like, your faces when I asked the question was golden. I always usually have a question that I love to just throw at people, and that was mine for you guys. So thank you. That was kind of what I was hoping.
We were all just waiting for somebody to talk first because none of us wanted to be the person.
Probably have like a collective meeting, pros, cons list, like full analysis, and then you'd get all four of us, so you'd probably get none of us. I'm pretty sure that would
Yeah, I think
exactly.
Yeah.
Melissa, we actually have a question from one of our viewers right now.
Okay.
This is from Ray Sharp. You might know Ray.
Hi, Ray.
Why is Brutus Buckeye the GOAT of dancing mascots? That's a great question.
I mean, it's an excellent question. Well, let's start with the fact that he's a national champion. We'll start with that. And I know other mascots are too, so nothing to take away from them.
We have a great mascot.
You don't have a mascot.
The second would probably have to be their coach. I mean, just fantastic. Knocks it out of the ballpark. I don't know if you've ever met him, but just.
I want to know who's a better dancer, Ray or Melissa? That's what I want.
Oh, that's a great question.
We can't answer that. I don't know.
Next full out chat, dance off.
There you go.
I would go with Pat.
Oh, definitely.
I think we all would vote for that. Yeah.
Pat's great too. Oh my goodness, I love Pat. He's such a good guy. Oh my goodness. And
shout out, Pat.
I had Ray on. He's been my mascot full out chat. He's such a good dude. But yeah, I will say the Brutus TikTok is kill. Like the stuff they come up with is unbelievable. Like those guys know what they're doing. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a lot of people watching, which is great. The thing about UDA Nationals, which is so interesting, is like it's not just one event or just one category. You have these categories, and you have, I've had people ask me like, why is Michigan wearing purple? I don't get, like they like the costumes and like everything, the choreography, and I do not know enough about dance to even try to explain that. So that's why I have 4 professionals here to help me with that. But, just talking about the nationals experience and like what it is, the different divisions, costumes, like choreography, all that. First, would anybody like to talk about just the different divisions that you can compete in and kind of the rules of all the divisions and stuff? Would anybody like to take that one?
Like any of us probably could, but I can give you the quick hitter. There's 3 different categories that we operate in. So jazz, pom, or hip hop. And jazz tends to be your more like technically driven. Pom is definitely combining like visual elements with technique. And then hip hop is more of, what you would traditionally see in terms of more street, I guess. Is that the best way to say it? And then as Jenny kindly is reminding me, there's also game day. So I think that is more of the kind of crossover where you see that in cheer and in dance. And that's really about like how we support our universities from a game day experience. So in the dance world, you can do 2 out of 3 categories, and then game day is like an add-on you can do as well. So that's kind of how our worlds are structured in terms of the category options.
So timeout. So game day is separate. So you can do 2 of the 3 and also do game day. So you could technically do 3 routines that day. Or that.
We did this year. We did 3. We did game day for the first time, and Jenny too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me go to you guys. Like, how was that experience doing game day this year? I'll go to Val first.
Oh, it was our first year doing it. So we're like, hey, let's just have fun with it. Let's bring the big house to UDA. That's kind of what we wanted to do. So we try to think of like all the elements that we do in a game day. And I really enjoyed the process. I didn't really think I would enjoy it as much, but it really gave us like that opportunity to like bring our own little stamp to UDA and kind of show them what we do. And I really appreciated it. It was a lot of fun.
And Jenny, how was your experience going into game day with Iowa this year?
Yeah, my team loves, this was our second year competing in game day. And last year was very similar to Val. We weren't sure what to expect. But watching them on stage, I think my favorite part about game day is that you can have up to 30 participants on the floor. So college nationals were limited to only dancing with 16 team members for pom, jazz, hip hop. But game day, you can have up to 30. And so the ability to have my entire team, I had 21 last season, the ability to have all of them on the nationals floor together and have that experience is, I think, worth it, number one. And then, watching them do their University of Iowa traditions on the big stage of nationals, like, I think I got more emotional watching that because their smiles and their energy was just radiating because they were like, this is us, this is Iowa, this is what we do, And so both seasons that they've come off the floor, they're like, that was amazing, So I think if anyone's hesitant about doing game day, I would try it because it's not, it is work, obviously, and we take a great pride in what we put out on the floor at nationals, so we're going to work hard at it no matter what, but it's a different kind of work, and it just means something, I think, a little bit different than maybe the other divisions. So I would highly recommend it. My team loves it. I love it.
Now, do any of you compete in the hip hop division?
We do.
I thought so. I thought Michigan did. So let's talk about specific divisions now. So Val, talk about the hip hop division in terms of the score sheet. What elements are you trying to hit? Like what makes a successful hip hop routine at UDA Nationals?
Well, that's a great question because I think that
sometimes coaches don't know the answer. I know. I know exactly how you feel.
Well, no, I mean, hip hop, I think, has kind of gone through different genres. Like if you look to see what's kind of trending in the hip hop world and the studio world, it's a little different than kind of what's trending in the UDA dance world. And so I kind of put on my mindset of what I see in the studio world and how does that translate into the dance team world. And I think for a while there for hip hop, it was all about tricks and hitting all these tricks. And last year we jam-packed our routine with tricks, and we haven't made it to finals in hip hop in 7 years, and we made it to finals in hip hop last year. We were so proud. But we jam-packed it with tricks, and that kind of really wasn't what was trending. But we were proud of our routine and proud of what we put on the floor. And my goal this year was hey, let's just be Michigan. It doesn't really matter, try to be whatever the score sheet says. Let's just be Michigan and go out and be ourselves. And I think that was successful for us. But kind of what I'm seeing, and I don't, other coaches want to join in, but I feel like it's more of the movement and the artistry of what's happening in hip hop, which is kind of coming from the studio world. And that may all change next year. Who knows? Maybe we'll be in tight spaces and try to do choreography in tight spaces because we've been quarantined for 6 months. I don't know. I'm just you know what I mean? Who knows what's trending in hip hop right now? So for me, my goal for next year is just be let's just be the best version of Michigan. And I don't really care at that point what's trending. I'm going to try to do what's the best for my team and what they're capable of doing. And like I said, I think that was successful for us last year.
Amanda, would you mind talking about the POM division? Traditionally, Minnesota has done very, very well in the POM division, has done a tradition of winning in that division. It's done very well. So kind of talk about the POM division. What's the difference between that and the other two, and how to be successful?
So Melissa touched on it, but in POM, you're really blending some of those technical elements with visuals and strong motions, and really kind of that traditional, maybe what you'd see. It's taking what you do on the sidelines and really elevating it. POM even has evolved a lot. I think, that's always kind of what's tricky as a coach is how do we stay ahead of what's trending or what will resonate that year or feel different from what other teams are bringing. And sometimes you take a risk and it doesn't pan out. And sometimes you take a risk and it works. Mm-hmm. But I think with POM, it's teams really lean more into the traditional. You still have a lot of, mixes, and it's really high energy and kind of in your face. And again, about the visuals and kind of jam packing a lot of unique technical elements, while still it's true athleticism. POM is, if people ever question if dancers are athletes, please watch a competitive POM routine and try and tell me differently. Mm-hmm. So I think of POM as being one of the more athletic categories, whereas the other two, jazz and hip hop, are maybe a little bit more about storytelling and artistry.
which we go to the jazz division. And I'm going to date myself here. So I cheered at Wisconsin from 01 to 04. No, 01, 05, sorry. And Wisconsin dance, I remember one year, 03, I think we took second to Minnesota. That was an awesome, that was
Prince?
a great, I
Was
remember that.
Prince?
Yes, the Prince routine, yes.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, yes. And for a long time there, it was, Minnesota and Tennessee were always really battling. And then, Ohio State decided to just, put their nose in there and start winning also, and has been very successful the last few years in the jazz division. So Melissa, I mean, talk about kind of the jazz division. What does it entail? Kind of what is your mindset when you're putting together a jazz routine to be the most successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on like where your background comes from, you have a love-hate relationship with the jazz division. I grew up in a studio, so that is definitely more the category that was 10 times more familiar to me than pom. I never held poms until I came to college, so that was new. But I think the jazz division is really a mix of athleticism and artistry for sure, but also sort of a mix of like movement and technical elements in terms of, I would say, like what's trending as of late and just kind of like how the score sheet is put together. So that's kind of like always been our mode of operation, and I don't think that's changed necessarily. Just really always kind of trying to value both the technical side and the actual like quality of movement choreography side. Similar to Val, I think it's ebbed and flowed where it's like all about the skills or all about the movement or whatever, but I think trying to find a balance is important.
So something I don't understand at all, which I know is huge, is obviously studio dance and getting athletes from studios and dance studios. And then also at high school dance. So can between, the type of athlete who comes from a studio, who comes from a school, we become, you're looking at a program, what,
I think Steve was talking about studio versus dance team experience, and he was kind of asking a little bit about that. For me, I think, like when I was growing up, I did both studio and dance team, and everybody thought I was crazy. They're like, "What are you doing?
Hello?
Like,
Anybody
why
there?
are you doing both?" Oh, we can hear you now. I think you were talking about studio and dance team. Like,
there we go.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Everybody there? Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Welcome to a live show and relying on internet and technology. So yes,
I was shocked it wasn't me this time.
No, that was
Studio.
I think it was me. Anyways, but yes, the difference between getting a dancer from a studio background versus a school background, or somebody who does both, kind of, explaining kind of those worlds, and when you're recruiting or when you're bringing in recruits to join your program, kind of what are you looking for from a kid from either background?
Well, most of my student athletes come from both worlds. They've been on their dance team as well as their studio team. And you can tell when somebody has just had studio training, and you can tell when somebody's just had dance team training. And I think if they've had both, that just gives them a greater chance of success for making a college dance team.
For sure. I would echo that sentiment, as well as, the studio is where, and most of us grew up in that world where you're getting ballet, from the age of 3. And, as you get older, you're doing that. And ballet is a fundamental technique for all of the styles, even hip hop that we're talking about. Having that strong technical background is huge. But then also with high school teams, you are learning more of the dance team style, which is you have to be clean, you have to be in sync, you have to watch your spacing, and depending on, some studios really do emphasize that, but not all of them. And so, like Val said, having both of those aspects in your background is just going to make you more successful, because you need both. For our programs, you need both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is the studio space really celebrates individuality and finding your style as an individual dancer and taking risks that you personally value. And our world in the dance team setting is much more of a team sport, where you need to look like the person next to you. So you being an individual is no longer celebrated. mean, you have to really understand, and I almost think it's more of a mindset or like fundamental character trait, even more so sometimes than experience. Because I would say, like, we've had our fair share of studio kids that maybe have never been on a team, but they've showed us enough that they can be a good team member, or, you know, are like team oriented enough. But to Jenny and Val's point, like having the mix is like the gold mine.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're competing with both. I think sometimes students will say, oh, I'll just take a ballet class here or there, and I'll just do my dance team. But if they can make it work with their high school team, that they're competing with both, those are like the top-notch stellar students that will get into the top-notch programs that are doing both.
I think at the end of the day, like, both kind of tracks give you the ability to be, you know, adaptable to styles, and, you know, if you're getting that technique one way or the other. But yeah, it's about like taking whatever your experience is and being able to put that like team first mentality, because sometimes, you know, there are kids from that dance team track that struggle with that too, because they were the stars of their team and they've never had to make changes and they got all the features. And then they come to these, you know, D1A programs and kind of feel like a little fish in a big pond for the first time. So for me, I think it's regardless of kind of what background they have, as long as they have that team first mentality and can truly like kind of buy into the overall culture. If they've got the technical background and they're adaptable to styles, like they can be a good fit.
So we've been chatting for 45 minutes. That's when time flies when you're having fun. So we got a couple more minutes here. And so I was talking about how just really like in the entertainment world, dance is really blowing up. You have all these different TV shows now. I will admit, I love World of Dance. I'm addicted to it. I love that show. It's great. I've always thought like a good team could go on there and do really well. I just think that, and it's such a great show. I mean, what has that done for the dance world? Have you seen just more interest in dance do you think because of the mainstream media just maybe showing it more or having more of these shows, or maybe has it hurt you, or maybe are you not getting as many kids wanting to do college dance because they want to do like, you know, entertainment type of dance, you know, or anything like that?
I wouldn't say that, at least from my perspective, that it's hurt us in any stretch of the imagination. I think primarily when I think about like dance in terms of like on TV or like commercialized dance, I mean, So You Think You Can Dance was the first major competition show, and they were going to be on, I think, 16 seasons this year. So I think if anything, we're seeing like over time the interest grow because of that show being really popular. And now 16 years or whatever seasons later, those kids are now, you know, grown up with dance being a very household, you know, situation. So I don't think it's definitely hurting it. And I just think it's two different tracks. Like you're either going to go and have a commercial career or do dance team and then maybe pursue commercial career. But certainly doing both at the same time is not really possible. Mm-hmm. So I think as like an 18-year-old, you're sort of making those choices to either defer it or just not pursue a commercial career, or you're going down that road, at least from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Because they're coming to our universities first for an education, right? Like the education's first. So dance is what they've been doing all their life. So we were giving them that opportunity to have that outlet while they're at their university.
Yeah. I think one thing too, that if I take off my coaching hat and I put on my educator hat or my parent hat, the one thing I love about the commercial dance and all the dance on TV is representation, right? Where there's so many more cultures that are represented, backgrounds, and, you know, little kids are watching it saying, I can do that because I see somebody like me doing it. Mm-hmm. You know, I think about even like male dancers and how in our programs, you know, I don't have a male dancer, but Val does, right? Like having more males being involved in dance team programs, that representation really matters. You know, my son who's 6 can watch a guy on TV killing it and he's like, I can do that. And it's like that, I think that's so awesome. And so I just think that exposure to a broader audience of people getting involved with this, you know, athletic, artistic endeavor that we all love. I mean, I see nothing but positives from it. So, and I really do think that it's strengthened our programs because, you know, the other fortunate part about competing at UDA Nationals is they have the ESPN shows, and being able to have people see our teams on TV and go, wow, I never knew that that's something that you could do at the University of Iowa, at Michigan, at Ohio State, at Minnesota, so not only can they get that world-class education, but then they can also continue doing what they love. So I think the exposure is awesome. Obviously, yeah, the 2 tracks is probably pretty difficult to do while you're in college, but
I feel like it almost validates what we do a little bit more for people that don't get it or like don't understand. Like if you see a choreographer who has choreographed on So You Think You Can Dance or World of Dance, or a dancer who competed on So You Think You Can Dance, now working with one of our teams or competing on one of our teams, like all of a sudden for people that maybe never understood what college dance team was or thought it was just something on the sidelines, all of a sudden they see it as like a really viable option and like, oh wow, this is like, there's so much talent and there's so much hard work, and this actually is like a real pursuit that dancers can have. So I actually, to what they've all been saying, I think it's actually just been a huge win for us and has just broadened the scope of people that can appreciate what we do and just dance as a whole.
So my last question, everybody, is going to be just simply, we have an audience. This is going to be on YouTube forever. As a college coach, if you could give one piece of advice for somebody who is striving to be a D1A dancer, they want to go to either of your schools or another school. Either way, they want to dance in college. That is something that they strive for. It's what they want to do. A piece of advice that you would give to have an opportunity to possibly make that dream a reality. I'll start with Val.
I would tell them to continue with all of their technique classes, continue, dance on their high school dance team if they can, keep up their grades, because these are all very difficult schools to get into. I can't tell you how many times I've wanted some amazing dancers on my team and they didn't get into the school. So I think that's really important, keeping up their grades and really thinking, I think some of the other coaches touched on it, is being selfless. And like taking the initiative to contact coaches. Hey, Melissa, I'm interested in your program. What are you looking for? Don't have your mom email for you. Like make sure that you are being the one taking the initiative, that you're going to be a self-starter. Because nothing's worse for me than I'm going to take a potential student on my team and the mom's emailing them, emailing me. And I want to know that that student can handle my program, can handle the rigors of my program, and being very professional about it. So, and the other thing is take as many clinics and things that you can and go to all these schools, visit every school, because you may think you like Michigan, but maybe you're going to like Iowa better. I don't know. So go visit or take classes or clinics or whatever. So to feel the right fit, because ultimately I want people that are going to love being at Michigan and want to be at Michigan for the right reasons. And so once you're there and you get that feel from the coach and get that feel from the program, I think that's what's really important, that a place that you're going to be happy at for 4 years or maybe 5.
Or sometimes 6 or 7 if they're doing grad school or not, but
your whole life.
Yeah, literally. I just celebrated my 10th year here at Purdue, which blows my mind. I can't believe it. I cannot believe that I moved here from Wisconsin 10 years ago. So that's crazy.
I can't believe we all started coaching when we were only 13. Wow, just prodigies in the coaching.
We are that dang good. Absolutely. Yeah. Melissa, same question, what would you tell a recruit that is looking at Ohio State or wants to be a college dancer one day?
Val covered a lot of it. And what I would say, I think the thing that came to the top of my mind when you asked that question was just do your research.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, shoot.
See, whenever I do this, the coaches that go last are so mad because everything's taken, or they're mad at going first because they're caught off guard. They just can't think of anything right away. So, sorry.
I think dance team in college can be a haphazard choice anymore, whereas for me, it kind of was. And I feel like just where the space of dance team has evolved, especially D1A college teams that are, highly competitive, I just don't think anymore it is like my senior year, I'm going to do a dance team. That's not the space that we operate in anymore. So I would say doing your research almost earlier than you feel like is right, and understanding processes, understanding every school is so different, and really finding the fit. I think that's the other great thing that I connected with that Val said is really important. But in order to find the fit, you have to do your research. So that would be my 2 cents.
Jenny, I'll have you go last. So I'm sorry, I'll put you last on that. So obviously we're bringing up some really good points, but I guess I'll kind of twist the question a little bit. What would you suggest a senior this year because of COVID? They can't come to campus, or they're not traveling, or maybe, I know at Purdue, we're not allowed to have any clinics for the rest of 2020, no matter what. So you're not able to host these clinics that you might usually do. I mean, any suggestions for the COVID year senior that's looking at schools?
I think connect with the coaches, connect with the team members, like you can find them on social media. Like they said, my biggest piece of advice is like, find the school that is the right fit first, because you are student athletes. So you are students first at the university. And if that's not the right fit, no matter how much you love the dance team, it's not going to be successful for you. And all of our programs were so much more than just the UDA Nationals clip that you see on YouTube. And so like, you can't pick a team just because you really like their nationals routine. Like, it is so much more than that. So like Melissa said, do your research, connect with us as coaches. Like, we want to get to know people that are interested in the program too. And like Val said, like, we want people that are really passionate about our schools and are coming to us for the right reasons. And the best way to understand that is to talk to you, talk to the team members, learn more about the culture, send us videos, like get the conversation started. Because it really is like, it's kind of on you to do that research this year. And there are lots of resources available to help you find all of that out.
And Jenny, I mean, sorry, you're last. So probably all the good answers were taken. I'm sorry, but, kind of the combination of it all, like obviously, like, COVID year, kids probably aren't making the trip to Iowa like they normally would. You're not having a clinic. But also, a kid that maybe doesn't have a studio background, maybe they don't think they have the skill or the technical skills to maybe make a team, but maybe they do. I mean, any advice that you would give to a dancer who's looking to become a college dancer?
Sure. One of the things I think that people underestimate is how connected the dance team world is. Like, the 4 of us are best friends. I mean, we talk all the time. And so, chances are if you're mass emailing us, like, we know. Because I'm like, hey, did you get that really weird email from so-and-so, right? But I think you can also, as a rising senior or, going to be freshman, not this year, but next year, you can use that, right? You can talk to your high school coach. Maybe they know someone, an alumni of a program, and just like diversify your perspective on what's out there. When I was doing my college search, I looked at, get ready, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. Like, those were my 3 schools. And thankfully, I had people from my studio that danced on all 3 teams. And so when I went on my college visit, and I know that's a little different this year, but I got to go watch a practice from each of the schools. And that really helped me understand, like, I like how this program is run. Ooh, I didn't really like that practice. So I think that's something that's very helpful, is just using your network. The dance network is actually a really small community if you think about it. So I guarantee you can find someone that knows somebody who was on the team or knows someone that was on the team in the dance world. So use that to your advantage. And I will totally and 100% echo what Amanda said, especially because of COVID. Like, you are going to make a huge investment in your college education, and you shouldn't be investing $45,000 or whatever it is that tuition costs for a year in just the dance team, right? Like, this is a finite experience. I tell my team this all the time. You have 4 finite years on this team, and you have to be prepared for life after, So yes, dancing at UDA Nationals is an amazing experience and so worth it. And dancing at Kinnick Stadium is an amazing experience and so worth it. But after 4 years, you have to be prepared to live on your own and be a functioning adult. So, make sure that you're choosing a place that can do it all. And that takes time. And it takes a lot of pros and cons lists, like Melissa mentioned before, So take your time, start early. 9th grade, 10th grade is not too early to start investigating schools.
I mean, just real quick, for all your programs, do they try it every year? Everybody tries it every year? or retry out or no? No, Ohio State does not. Yes, Michigan and Iowa.
We're going to shift towards recruiting soon. So
Okay.
Coming to the dark side, as I told her.
Yeah.
At Ohio State, you guys do 100% recruiting also?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I thought that you matched that. Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick, that's a great question. I mean, tryouts versus recruiting. We have a couple more minutes here. And so, Melissa, talk about that. How are you different in terms of like going to a 100% recruitment base only to bring in your athletes?
Yeah, we shifted. This will be our third year operating that way. So we shifted a couple years ago, but for us, it was two-part. One, we had started to get a lot more out-of-state kids. And by the time we got to the audition process, we pretty much knew who we were going to take on our team. And it started to get to a point where I felt like this is a little costly and like silly on my end if I already know. And I know that's different for everybody. So that was just kind of my experience. And then secondarily, on the administrative side, we try to parallel as much as we can from the other sports in our space. And every other sport at Ohio State operates on a recruiting model. We were the only people that operated on an audition process. So that was kind of another, tally to get us closer to the norm, and then hopefully kind of eliminate the barriers for us to be different, to allow us to get the other resources that some of the other teams got. So that was really the thought process behind it. And it's it's weird because it's only been 2 years, but I can't imagine going backwards for us just because we've kind of like fully dove into that space.
And Amanda, you said at Minnesota, you guys are looking into it or possibly considering it. Okay.
Yeah, we're dabbling with the thought. I think similar to Melissa, like we, and again, this year might not be the best year to dive into that because we're not going to be having all these events, but oftentimes we would get to tryouts and, there would maybe be one person that was kind of a pleasant surprise, but for the most part, like I felt pretty confident knowing who was going to show up and who I was excited about to take on the team. And so also just knowing, it's really difficult to schedule in spring with these kids that are doing studio and competitions and worlds and all of these things. And so wanting to be thoughtful of them, being able to really finish out their high school commitments and being able to do that while also allowing them to know, like, if they're on the team or not, are they actually going to go to Minnesota or are they going to go to another school? And so that's something we're always really conscious of because, again, as much as we say the school needs to be a fit, I know there are some kids that if they don't make the dance team will choose to go to another school. And that's great. But I also want to make sure that I'm giving them time to make that decision. So that's kind of where our thought process is at as we're starting to dabble with the idea of diving into recruiting. But again, this year maybe is not the smartest year, but we'll make it work. So
I think that goes back to, Steve, what you asked earlier about, advice to athletes that are trying to be a part of a college program. Our model, I would consider it maybe like a hybrid model. Yeah. Where you have to get invited to tryouts. And so there is that recruiting aspect. And so if you can get in front of coaches, whether it's sending them a video of your solo on YouTube or attending a virtual combine or clinic, so that, I did virtual tryouts this year and every single athlete that I took new to my program, I had seen in person at some point in the past year, and most of them multiple times over the past 2 to 3 years. So I was comfortable, even though we had virtual tryouts and I didn't see them in person, I knew them as dancers because I had seen them many times in my own gym. So I think that's something that just echoes what we were talking about before, like get yourself out there.
I think it's important too, that if you are auditioning or being recruited by other schools, be as honest with the coaches that are recruiting you. I cannot stress that enough. Again, we talk often, all the time. And so we understand this is a major decision for you. We want you to make the right decision. But if you are lying to us or being not being very truthful of what schools you're auditioning for, we're going to know about it. And so if somebody came up to me and said, hey, I'm interested and I'm still auditioning for Minnesota, I'm auditioning for Ohio State and I'm auditioning for Iowa. Awesome. all great coaches. Any school that you go to is going to be amazing for you, but you have to figure out what the right fit is for you. And so I think sometimes they want to tell us what we want to hear because they just want to be on our team, but it's better to be transparent and honest, because then we can help you and guide you with whatever decision you need to make. We want you to be happy. So we're not going to just say, hey, you have to come to my school. We just want you to be happy, right? Like that's, to me, really what I want.
I mean, the parallels here are like uncanny, because I completely agree. I've always told kids, number one, you can never go to too many clinics too early. Because for me, we do a hybrid also. We do a hybrid tryout invite, but we actually do offer roster spots before tryouts to incoming freshmen. And I just tell people, if it's close between a kid that's coming to 8 of my clinics and a kid that's only coming to 1, I'm taking the kid that's coming to 8 because I just know them more, you know?
Yeah.
And number one, another thing that bothers me, but it affects my school more than your guys' is like, know how to spell the school and how the school was said. You know, Purdue is with a U, not an E. And we're Purdue University, not the University of Purdue, you know, and stuff like that. So
yes, thank you.
And so if you are writing emails, I appreciate it if it's the kid, but make sure you do your research, everybody. Just know what the school names are and everything. So
quick little spell check, never hurt anybody, right?
Just quickly, just, you
Google
know.
search, just a little Google search.
Yeah, as much as I appreciate that, you guys already talked about it, the email's like, hello, coach, I'm interested in your university. Like, okay, this went out to 50 coaches.
How many people are BCC'd on this email right now?
Exactly.
The world. And I think that's like, I just don't think we can say it enough. Like, I think really people don't really underestimate that. But I know the 4 of us at least talk every day. Pretty much. I mean, definitely. And so I can't tell you the amount of times I'm like, I saw you. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
So, I mean, ladies, we've talked for an hour. This has been awesome. I appreciate your time again. I know that, you know, we're all going through the same stuff together here. I mean, having a Big Ten schedule is great. I just hope that we all have an opportunity to give our kids some sort of a season this year and be used at football and basketball games. And hopefully by March, we're traveling and hopefully nationals sometime later than January is what we're hoping for. But again, I just want to thank you guys for your time tonight. I really do appreciate it. We had a great turnout of viewers, and I'm going to put you guys backstage. You guys can hang out. And we'll chat afterwards. But I just want to thank you all again for being here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Those are 4 of the best coaches in the country. You could not go wrong with any of them. I mean, but they said it best. Even though we're all in the Big Ten, every school is so different and every coaching style is so different. And like I said, the parallels between dance and cheer and what they were talking about was uncanny to me. It was unbelievable because it was so true. But I just want to thank Val, Jenny, Melissa, and Amanda again for joining me tonight. That was so much fun. I had an absolute blast. And just real quick, if you want to help out, if you love the show, if you're a supporter, you can do something for me, which would be just subscribe. That's all I ask. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram. We have some full out chats coming up. We have, this will be a podcast. If you're maybe traveling and you want to listen to this, this will be a podcast later this week. So you could go on Apple iTunes or Google Play or Spotify or iHeartRadio. And also we're on Facebook and on Twitter. But the big thing is if you could subscribe to this YouTube channel and to our iTunes podcast, that would be most excellent. And that would be great support. Thank you all very much. We are back next week with another full out chat. We're going back to the cheer world, and I will be speaking with Whitney A.G. Holman, University of Kentucky, USA co-ed. Unbelievable young lady who has accomplished a lot in the cheer world. So that'll be on Instagram Live next Tuesday, August 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern here on my Instagram at Full Out Chat. So again, just please follow or subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. So again, Whitney A.G. Holman, she just recently got married from University of Kentucky and USA co-ed. I'll be chatting with next week for my full out chat. So once again, I hope you enjoyed our Dance Coaches Corner. I'm quite sure we will do it again sometime because that was awesome. There's going to be a lot of news coming out here soon in the next few weeks in terms of college cheerleading, college dance, and everything. And so I'm quite sure it's going to be a lot of great stuff. Real quick, Sophia, you're very welcome. Glad you enjoyed the chat. I hope you learned something. So thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate that, Sophia. So as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay safe. Have a great night.